It's tough being a comic book fan these days. Sometimes if you want to support a book from Marvel or DC, you have to go against the very fabric of everything that you stand for and believe in. And maybe today you guys will be calling me a hypocrite after this video, but there's very little that I get excited about from Marvel Comics. Almost everything that they do that's even good these days are miniseries, stuff that's outside of continuity or in continuity 30 years ago. And you really have to look hard for something to be excited about. And I am excited about Hellhunters, which does feature not a brand new, because this character has been around for a few months at least, but a new version of Ghost Rider. And I'll be the first one to tell you, there's too many fucking Superman, there's too many Batman, there's too many freaking Captain Americas, there's too many Ghost Riders, there's too many Green Lanterns, or human Green Lanterns at least. There's too many of all of it. There's too many dupes out there. And by dupes, I mean duplicates. Too many different variations of the exact same freaking character. And I think that's something that Marvel and DC need to address and just wipe out. It's time for a culling of the herd, but I'm still excited for this new series with a duplicate of Ghost Rider teaming up with freaking Wolverine during a war epic story. I'm also excited because it actually has a good writer. And these days, I'm much more inclined to follow my favorite writers from character to character rather than to stick with my favorite character as the writers get cycled through. I found, me personally, with the lack of talent being distributed throughout Marvel and DC, there's just not a whole lot of it there to kind of share around and spread the wealth. You have to follow your favorite creators, or you're going to lose your ever-loving mind just reading garbage takes on your favorite heroes. And Ghost Rider, quite frankly, is a character that I like, but he's not like one of my favorites. I was enjoying the Ben Percy Ghost Rider, pretty decent there for maybe the first, 10 issues or so. And then he just totally fucking lost it. But I don't love Ghost Rider, and it's just I'm just going to adios out of here. But I won't need to do that one because this one's probably going to be damn good. We got Phillip Kennedy Johnson writing this one. One of the real dependable talents at Marvel and DC these days. Got a pretty damn solid Incredible Hulk run going on. I'm excited for his new Batman and Robin. He had the War World saga for Superman and Action Comics. That was absolutely awesome. He had the Fellspire Chronicles and DC Black Label. That was really good. He did have certainly a miss with his Alien book, but I think a lot of that had to do with the art by Salvador Larroca just kind of sucking. That's not Phillip's problem. He didn't make the art look that bad. He didn't make Salvador Larroca trace the art. Somebody else hired him, and he did that anyway. Let's get into the details about why I'm excited about this, but I also have to acknowledge I'm an enormous hypocrite for saying I'm definitely going to read this, and you should be excited too. Marvel is radically reshaping the backstory of the Spirit of Vengeance as the World War II era team-up between Ghost Rider and Wolverine is set to change the character's role in history. While Wolverine is known for his epic war stories, Ghost Rider's addition to the battlefields of World War II is set to be a spectacular reimagining of the character's lore as he takes to the battlefield in history's greatest conflict. Hellhunters, written by Phillip Kennedy Johnson with art by Adam Gorham, will continue the story of Ghost Rider 44, one of the many versions of the Spirit of Vengeance Marvel has introduced over the past several years, in addition to its classic hosts. And I will get to the many different editions of Ghost Rider that we've gotten over the past several years, because there's been a lot of them, but specifically talking about Ghost Rider 44. He's a pretty cool character, was introduced in Phillip Kennedy Johnson's Incredible Hulk run that's been ongoing. Nick Klein on art, looks like $1 million, and it's got a really cool design. It's basically what you would think of Ghost Rider being, but in a World War II soldier outfit with the helmet and stuff. And he was a pretty cool thing. And teaming up a character like this version of Ghost Rider that we don't know very much about in Wolverine in an epic war story, I think that sounds like a whole lot of fun. It sounds like it's really playing right into the strengths of Phillip Kennedy Johnson as a writer. I imagine we're going to get some lore building. How did he come to be? Why is he filled with the Spirit of Vengeance? Why has he been tasked to do this and go onto the front lines and defend essentially the entire world alongside Wolverine? And obviously Wolverine's a really cool character. I don't recall Phillip Kennedy Johnson ever really writing Wolverine. Now, maybe he was a character here or there. Maybe he got a chance, but I don't remember it happening. So I'm also excited about that. Hopefully, Marvel or DC finally gets their heads out of their butts and starts giving this guy some bigger opportunities. Now, Action Comics went for 2 years, and that is their number 2 Superman book. And he is doing Batman and Robin. So certainly DC Comics have really identified that he's a better talent than Marvel have been able to do. And he did come out of, I believe, the like the Scott Snyder like writers workshops that they were doing, where they're supposed to be finding the next like generations of talent. He's one of the people that have come out of there that's actually been successful. Unfortunately, there are a lot more Mags Visagios than there are Phillip Kennedy Johnsons coming out of that story. But he's somebody that's really proven himself, and I think he's a reliable creator. And this is something I think that you can get behind, especially if you like war comics, and we don't get a lot of war comics anymore. War comics are a lot of fun. Going back to World War II, that kind of works for me. Let's get into some of the details about this book. Phillip Kennedy Johnson introduced Sergeant Sal Romero, a.k.a. Ghost Rider 44, a spirit of vengeance who raised hell on the battlefields during World War II in his current Incredible Hulk run. This December, his epic backstory is told in Hellhunters, a 5-issue limited series written by PKJ and drawn by Adam Gorham. In the present day, Ghost Rider 44 can only reawaken when monsters come. During World War II, there are plenty of them, including Felix Bruckner, a Nazi officer who underwent a mysterious transformation of his own. When Bruckner's demonic army begins its march, Sal will be forced to embrace his supernatural gifts to turn the tide of the entire war. So it sounds like we're probably going to be getting more of a, like an origin story of what Ghost Rider 44 is, where he came from, how he kind of came to be, realizing his power sets, overcoming, lack of confidence. Obviously, you got this big demonic army and all that stuff with the aid of Wolverine, and that sounds like a whole lot of fun. If you don't know who this character is, he was introduced, I think it's an Incredible Hulk 7 or 8. I can't remember exactly which one. It was like a short 2-issue story. And a lot of what Phillip Kennedy Johnson is doing is that Hulk run, or like Monster of the Week type stories. The Hulk shows up like in a dilapidated community. It might have been on a reservation. And there's this like little kid. And whenever this kid's in danger, Ghost Rider 44 just like shows up, and the kid's like in the side of the motorcycle while his head's flaming, and she can't get enough of Ghost Rider 44. And at first, Hulk and Ghost Rider end up fighting because Ghost Rider thinks that Hulk is the monster that they need to stop. But then they realize there's another monster that's even bigger. It's illustrated by Nick Klein, and it's absolutely awesome. Just looks like $1 million. It's a feast for the eyes, to say the least. And end up overcoming it. And when you see it, you're like, that was pretty cool. That was exciting. Didn't realize there was another Ghost Rider out there, because we do have enough. And I will get to that, I promise. But it was an exciting debut. I didn't imagine that they were going to go back and visit that character, but maybe I wasn't the only one that noticed that character was pretty cool, that the design was neat, and I really liked the introduction. I know Jim, who does the Hot or Not podcast with me on the Patreon, his reaction was very similar, like, hey, I don't know who this is. I don't know if we'll ever see him again, but I really did like what was going on there. And perhaps Marvel Comics are listening to their fans, or maybe just Phillip Kennedy Johnson had a really awesome, compelling story to tell, when a pitch out there and said, hey, I've got this idea, and I think we can flesh out something in a miniseries that'll be really cool. Fighting Nazis during World War II, not exactly the most original concept, but he is Ghost Rider 44. He's the Ghost Rider of World War II. You would expect him to be on the front lines in fighting Nazis, and it sounds like whatever happened to Felix Bruckner, we're going to have some weird, demented, freak of nature out there to take on, the Hellhunters, Wolverine and Ghost Rider 44. So I'm all for it. It sounds like an exciting thing. And, with concepts like this and characters that are potentially this badass, and we know that Wolverine is badass, and the little bit that we saw of Ghost Rider 44, in that Hulk series is badass. You just have fun with it. You just roll with it. Although there definitely will be more to it than that, because Phillip Kennedy Johnson does have his writing style and the things that he really enjoys doing. And one of the things that he really enjoys doing is world building. So I imagine we're going to get some lore in there. We're going to get some character introductions from some really powerful motivations and all that kind of stuff to really flesh everything out. Hopefully with a really good pace on it, because it's only 5 issues. The few teaser images released by Marvel make it clear the series will be quite literally an explosive new entry in Ghost Rider lore. The demonic nature of the character's powers means that the role of the writer extends beyond its most familiar host. Johnny Blaze and Danny Ketch and Marvel fans have shown they have a great appetite for more iterations of the character. Hellhunters promises to be a wild ride, especially since it shows one of history's greatest Ghost Riders catapulting into battle as an army soldier facing down a Nazi demon army. However, beyond that, this lore change opens up the possibility of a whole new Ghost Rider series detailing Ghost Rider and other key time periods throughout human development. Akin to Venomverse, there are many stories from throughout the Marvel Universe's past waiting to be told, beyond just Ghost Rider 44. Those are the words of Screen Rant, and that's why this stuff really scares me. I don't ever want to see anything close to Venomverse ever again. I don't want to see anything like Spider-Verse again. I am so multiverse out. I'm so tired of seeing 80 billion different versions of the exact same hero. At this point, we've got Johnny Blaze. We've got Danny Ketch. We got Robbie Reyes. Those are the 3 Ghost Riders that are currently alive, and now we do have Ghost Rider 44. So we got 4 alive in the Marvel Universe that we know of. We've got the Ghost Rider that rode a woolly mammoth 10 million years ago. Absolutely ridiculous. Jason Aaron, so many stupid concepts. We've also got a Ghost Rider that was also the Sorcerer Supreme, that was like an Indian shaman or something like that. We've got Cosmic Ghost Rider. There are fucking too many Ghost Riders. Too many Ghost Riders for one universe. Nobody wants Venomverse ever again. There's a reason end of Venomverse and restart of Venomverse and rebirth of Spider-Verse, and none of that shit sells anymore. There's a reason no one cared about Weapon X-Men anymore, because you have literally nuked a lot of these characters and what makes them unique into oblivion. And saying that, and acknowledging all of it, I'm still excited because we actually got a good writer on a character that we know he likes, and it's teaming up with a freaking Wolverine character. But we do need to hold back on making different iterations of all these characters. Do not do an ongoing series with Ghost Rider 44. If he shows up every 2 years for a miniseries, for 4 to 5 issues, whatever, I think that's the perfect place for the character. You can forget him after that. Maybe he shows up again to help Hulk once every 3 years for an issue or 2, and that should be the extent of what they do with Ghost Rider 44. There literally is no room left in the universe for another regular appearing Ghost Rider. There is no room for Robbie Reyes, and Robbie Reyes is one of the few things that was introduced in Marvel Now or whatever, the all new, all different Marvel, whatever iteration it was that Robbie Reyes showed up. He was actually cool, and nobody even remembers that he exists, even though he was just on the Avengers, because there are just too many goddamn Ghost Riders. And quite frankly, there are just too many different iterations of all these characters. But I think if you use them sparingly and you get the right creator on there and you have the right pitch and you're not doing stupid stories for the sake of doing stories, and you're actually doing something focused that makes sense for the character, where you can have a rip-roaring good time and make people forget at least for 5 months that you don't have a good ongoing Ghost Rider series right now, I'm all for it, because quite frankly, Marvel in continuity sucks. There are just not very many books worth reading right now. It's Ultimate Spider-Man, it is Incredible Hulk. I'm probably leaving 1 or 2 out there, but almost every other thing that I read that I really enjoy, that I know is going to nail it, are miniseries, a lot of them in continuity 30 years ago, written by the likes of Peter David or Chris Claremont or J.M. DeMatteis or David Michelini, or all these actual talented people that for some reason can't do ongoings, while we just have this crop of really bad writers destroying a lot of characters and writing boring stories. So I'm all for it. I know it pisses people like Doc off and a lot of the long-term readers that they can't deliver in continuity. Well, I'm over it. I've come to terms with the fact that Marvel will never have, or probably will never have, a good, cohesive, ongoing narrative in their shared universe. If I only get it in a miniseries here and there, and a series or 2 that are in there, I will do what I have to do to enjoy it and do the best that I can. So I'm definitely there for Hellhunters. I definitely want to hear from you guys. Are you excited about this? Do you remember Ghost Rider 44 appearing in the early editions of Incredible Hulk from Phillip Kennedy Johnson? Because that's a series I have liked. It did bother me there for a bit, but I do think it's rebounding right now. I understand that Phillip Kennedy Johnson is doing Monster of the Week stuff. Nick Klein does sub out every once in a while. They're bringing in Danny Earls as the fill-in artist. The last 2 issue story arc that Danny Earls did, I thought fit his art style much better than kind of replacing Nick Klein on the exact same stories, or the continuation of the story that was going, and actually play to his strengths a little bit, which I do think helped But if you would like to know what Incredible Hulk is about, you haven't checked it out, I do think it's worth a while. Just realize that it might not go quite fast enough. It's certainly not fast enough for my taste, but I am still enjoying it. Nick Klein's still kicking ass and taking names, and Phillip Kennedy Johnson is still a good writer. If you haven't seen this video, I did it right here, talking about Incredible Hulk and what I thought were the really strong points about it when I made this video.